Uh, Dear friends, we are back. I would like to give a floor to Mr. Mustafa ABBASBAYLI, the chairman of the board of State Employment Agency, in order him to deliver his welcoming speech to the participants of our wonderful event. Mr. ABBASBAYLI, the floor is yours.
Distinguished participants of the conference and dear colleagues, I convey my greeting to you from Azerbaijan. First of all, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to the World Association of Public Employment Services for supporting us in the organization of the virtual conference on career development and major choices in the post-pandemic era. I should note that today's event was organized together with the Turkish Employment Organization İŞKUR. We have always tried to support each other in our activities by constantly exchanging information on the employment-related topics. The International Labour Organization is also represented in the virtual conference. I also thank them for their contribution to the virtual conference. For almost 2 years now, the world has been struggling with the COVID-19 pandemic. Challenges and cataclysm, especially in the adverse pandemic conditions created by the COVID-19, have moved the labor market to a completely different format and have formed more distant and online direction. This has become a great challenge for all us. COVID-19 has contributed to the faster adoption and application of automation as well as wide use of artificial intelligence, especially in areas of work with high physical affinity. The pandemic has made remote work necessary in many areas. Automation and application of digital technologies in these areas have created a serious basis for the distant work and for the assurance of the efficiency and productivity of the conducted work. I am sure that today's meeting important areas related to career development and major choices in the post-pandemic era will be discussed and important information exchange will be conducted. I would like to take this opportunity to provide you with the brief information about the State Employment Agency. The main goal of the agency is employment, support decent work, and increase labor time among government reports of employers on the paper have been cancelled. The registration process on employed people has become electronic, and the forming of the electronic individual employment program has system of labor relation and employment called AMAS was created. AMAS will act as a unified labor relations platform for all employed in the country, central and local executive bodies supporting the electronic employment contract as well as the creation of the digital HR accounting system. In addition to that, the employment map of the country has been launched. Furthermore, along with information on employed persons in the legislation, agencies started to work on national legislation on employment persons embarrassing all citizen groups, informal employment control information system, mobile inspection and monitoring system, innovative platform Bajar, the portal of public works and the electronic labor market. These e-services will provide a complete electronic transition of all human resources operation of the country and online evaluation of the basis dealings on administrative territorial units, demographics, vocational specialists, and labor balance indicators, control and risk-based inspection in the field of informal employment, collection of information on the public works in a single platform, and professional orientation and vocational training activities. Finally, I would like to take to note that being a member of the World Association of Public Employment Services is very important for our institution and for our development. I want to express my hope that we will achieve greater cooperation in the future I believe that by sharing the innovation we apply as an agency, along with exchanging good practices with our colleagues in the waves, we will increase the positive dynamics of our cooperation. In this regard, today's virtual conference is very important. Thank you.
Chairman, thank you very much for your welcome speech. As a person who has seen this change for the last year, I can confess and can tell that really so many things have been done for the last 1 year, and even more than Mr. Chairman have shared in his speech. And we believe that as a team of the State Employment Agency, we can help our citizens to have a better life standards, to have their employment, and to have a better life. Okay, so now we have our honored second guest, Mr. Oğuzhan Kağan GÜLDOİşAN. He is the Director General of the Turkish Employment Agency, İŞKUR. And Mr. GÜLDOİşAN, he will share his welcoming notes and thoughts with us shortly. Mr. GÜLDOİşAN, the floor is yours.
Üyeleri, sizlere Türkiye Cumhuriyeti ve Türkiye İş Kurumu adına hoş geldiniz diyorum. WEPS çatısı altında kardeş ülkemizle birlikte bu ortak etkinliği düzenlemekten büyük gurur duyuyoruz. Azerbaycan Cumhuriyeti Kamu İstihdam Kurumu ile çok güçlü bir işbirliğine sahibiz. Genel Müdür Mustafa ABBASBAYLI ve ekibine süregelen çabalarından dolayı teşekkür etmek istiyorum. Hanımefendiler ve beyefendiler, İnanıyorum ki pandemi sonrası dönemde kariyer gelişim ve başlıca seçimler temalı etkinliğimiz hepimiz için oldukça verimli olacak. Hepimizin bildiği üzere COVID-19 salgını dünya çapında 200 milyondan daha fazla insana bulaştı. Aralık 2019'dan bu yana ise yaklaşık 4,5 milyon insanın ölümüne sebep oldu. COVID-19 salgını 1929 büyük buhranından bu yana yaşanan en derin ekonomik krize yol açtı. Şimdi tüm ülkeler maalesef artan işsizlikle mücadele ediyor ve bu doğrultuda daha kapsayıcı politikalar oluşturmaya çalışıyor. Pandemi döneminde yaşanan küresel sıkıntılarla birlikte işsizlik, devletleri sağlık alanından sonra en çok zorlayan problemlerin başında gelmektedir. İstihdamın korunması ve artırılmasına ilişkin politikaların daha fazla önem kazanması, kamu istihdam kurumlarının stratejik önemini daha çok artırmıştır. Bu alanda hızlı bir şekilde önlem alan ve aldığı önlemleri etkili bir şekilde uygulayan ülkeler zor zamanları en az kayıplarla atlatacaklardır. Kısa çalışma, işsizlik ödeneği, işbaşı eğitim ve kariyer rehberliği gibi aktif ve pasif iş gücü piyasası önlemleri daha önemli bir hal almaktadır. İşkur olarak pandemi sürecinde sadece var olan istihdamı korumakla yetinmedik, yeni istihdam imkanları oluşturmak için çok çalıştık. Ekonomiyi canlandırmak ve salgının olumsuz etkilerini azaltmak için çeşitli düzenlemeleri ve uygulamaları ivedilikle hayata geçirdik. Uyguladığımız aktif ve pasif iş gücü programlarımızda bu zor dönemde iş arayanların, işçilerimizin ve işverenlerimizin yanında olarak önemli görevler yürütüyoruz. Geldiğimiz noktada artık hedefimiz iş gücü piyasasında normalleşmeyi sağlamak ve istihdamın artırılmasına dönük adımlar atmaktır. Kamu istihdam kurumları olarak pandemi sonrası dönemde de hizmetlerimizi yeniden gözden geçirmeli ve iş gücü piyasasının değişen ihtiyaçlarını karşılamanın yeni yollarını yaratmalıyız. Dolayısıyla yeni normal sürecinde yeni çalışma koşullarına adapte olmak için geleceğin teknolojilerini ve yapay zekayı istihdam hizmetlerimize adapte etmeliyiz. Yaratıcı ve yenilikçi çözümler üretmek için birbirimizden daha fazla öğrenmeliyiz. Bu kapsamda bugün gerçekleştirdiğimiz etkinlikte bizlere Azerbaycan ve Türkiye'nin deneyimlerini paylaşma fırsatı verdiği için WEPS'e tekrar teşekkür etmek istiyorum. WEPS'in bölgesel ve küresel düzeyde iş gücü piyasasında karşılaşılan birçok soruna ortak çözümler üretmesi hepimiz için oldukça önemlidir. Paylaştığımız deneyimlerin ülkelerimiz ve kurumlarımız için daha etkin iş gücü piyasası politikaları üretmeye ve daha iyi bir geleceğe katkıda bulunacağını umuyorum. Teşekkür ederim.
For your welcome speech. As you mentioned in your speech, it's very important to be able to learn from each other, and that's why we are here. And I also would like to thank WAPES for this wonderful opportunity. So let's not waste our time, and we have our first speaker is François DUMORA. He is Employment Service Specialist and Career Guidance Referent at ILO, and he will speak about ILO Global View about career guidance and evolution and tools. Mr. DUMORA, the floor is yours.
Bonjour à tous, merci Toghrul.
For me to be able to take the floor and participate in these exchanges with you. I would like to thank the three co-organizers of this conference, WAPES, the public services in Azerbaijan and also in Turkey. Why? Because it's very important today for us to share on the theme of career guidance. It was something that was very important prior to the pandemic, but even more so now. On the 20th of June 2021, the 197 members of the International Conference on Labour came together in Geneva. It was a hybrid meeting in Geneva and also online, and adopted a call to action in favour of a post-COVID-19 recovery focused on the human aspect. Here it was about putting human beings at the heart of all recovery policies, and this meant that there was an essential role to be played by public services when it came to recovering, including strengthening the offer that was being given to job seekers, including career guidance. My presentation this afternoon will be looking at the role of career guidance in the post-COVID-19 recovery. I think that we should go through a 5-stage reflection. To start off with, I will be giving you a little bit of data. Don't worry, not too much data, but a little bit, all the same, so that we can really quantify the impact of COVID-19 on the labour market, and we'll really be homing in on how youth and young people were impacted. That's our second stage. The third stage will be a very brief look at the results of a survey that was conducted by many different organisations on COVID-19 and the different career guidance services. Then we'll be looking a little bit more about how we can invest and why we should be investing now in career guidance. Why is this an important facet of what we're doing? And to conclude, we'll be looking at a 5th stage. What is the offer of services that the ILO can put on the table in order to support career guidance services for the different public employment services? We're all aware of this. This is what the two former speakers said. The COVID crisis had a considerable impact on the labour markets. I am going to be sharing a little bit of data with you that was shared by the ILO. The ILO created a specific observatory so that we were able to quantify the impact of COVID on the labour markets, and I would encourage you to visit the ILO's website to have access to this data. The first figure that you can see here is the table. This is the impact in 2020 of the first and even the second waves of COVID on the labour market. This impact was 4 times more important than the recession in 2009, and has already been mentioned. The world had never seen as important of a crisis, and this since the 1930s. In 2020, 8.8% of work hours on a global level were lost. This is equivalent to 255 million of full-time jobs. ILO has also looked at projections for 20 jobs will be lost in 2021, or work time equivalents, and in 2022, obviously no one knows what tomorrow will have in store, but if we look at the different trajectories that the disease could take, or the virus could take, we would be looking at a total of 23 million full-time jobs in working hours equivalent lost. Who are the most impacted? The most impacted, as with any crisis, are women with an impact rate above 5 points, and youth with 9-point impact. Here is a map. We have a map of the number of working hours lost in 2019, corresponding to waves 1 and waves 2 of COVID. As we can see, the impact was global, but actually there are notable differences if we compare this on a continent by continent basis. For example, South America was heavily hit, if not the most impacted on a labour market point of view. Europe, Southern Europe was also very hardly hit, India, and then there are other countries as well that we can see in a darker red colour. Let's think about unemployment. Unemployment is up 10%. This is an evaluation that was done by the International Labour Organization. Between 2019, when we had 187 million people unemployed, in 2022, we think that across the globe there will be 205 million unemployed people. Since January 2020, the ILO estimates that 93% of workers across the globe, this is the beginning of January, 93% of workers across the globe lived in a country where workplaces were submitted to restrictions. This means that we can say that the impact of the COVID crisis was global. If we now very quickly have a look at what this means for youth, specific impact of the COVID crisis on youth. This comes from a report that was published by the ILO. The proportion of participants who say that they had to stop working after the start of the pandemic, we can see that 17.4% of 18 to 29-year-olds had to leave employment due to COVID. The most impacted were the youngest, so the 18-24, 23.1%, so a quarter of the youth of the earth had to stop working during the COVID crisis. In the same survey, we saw that there was an impact that maybe wasn't looked at in detail, and this is looking at well-being. These figures send shivers up my spine. Why? Because only 35% of young people say that they're optimistic about the future, and 50% are showing signs of depression. This mental state of youth is not only linked to COVID, it would be naive to think that, but it is clear that the situation has been worsened by the COVID crisis. Let's talk about the different career guidance available. The elements that I'm going to share now have come from the Career Guidance Policy and Practice in the Pandemic report. This was a report that was published following a survey conducted by 6 different international organizations: the European Union, CEDEFOD, ETF, the ICCDPP, the International Labour Organization, the OECD, and UNESCO. This survey had 963 responses from 93 countries. This was conducted between June and August 2020 in order to and this corresponded to the period right after the first wave of COVID. We can see that during the first wave, lots of different career guidance services had to shut up shop. And this unfortunately came at a point where these services were indispensable and essential to those looking for employment. But these services were closed because each of the different countries decided that they would have to close these services because of the pandemic. Following this, there was a phase of restructuring. What we can see is that for 40% of the countries, career guidance was mobilized in order to deal with the pandemic. It was a tool, it was a response to the National Action Plan in order to overcome the pandemic's impact. And what we also saw from this survey is that professionals were also mobilized. They were able to adapt themselves to this new style of working. Obviously, social media and online resources were of huge importance, which was not the case prior to the pandemic. Social media, social networking, online resources were designed to replace face-to-face services. Because the physical offices were closed, there was a mobilization and adaptation of online services, online interviews, and online meetings, especially if we look at the different public employment services across the globe. But we also know that digital services are not always accessible to all. Therefore, lots of different services offered phone support for the most vulnerable groups, those who couldn't access internet, which meant that there was telephone support provided for these groups. In addition, there was a lot of support given when it came to providing information on the labour market, because there was a lot of desire wanting to know which other professional sectors could be tapped into if their current was saturated. Therefore, there was support for career changes, information on the market, training, and even though this technically doesn't fall under the umbrella of career guidance, there was also a lot of psychological support provided. I once again would like to encourage you to read the results of this report that is also available on the ILO's website. Let's now move on to the following question. Why should we be investing in career guidance? We have 6 different answers. To start off with, it was already needed before the crisis. It's not the crisis that has meant that career guidance is important. It was already a factor that was very important. This also responds to economic reasons and is linked to the future of work. We also know that the needs of career guidance have been intensified due to COVID-19, and also they give hope. We'll also see what the essential role of public employment services. Let's go into detail. Career guidance was already necessary before the crisis. We should have already been investing in these types of services. I know I'm preaching to the choir here. In 2015, according to the ILO, 1 youth out of every 5 in the world was considered as a NEET, which means they're neither studying, neither working, and neither training. The 2030 Agenda was approved by the UN National Assembly with 17 objectives relating to the world of work. And this is linked to mobilization of a constantly evolving labour market. The 2030 Agenda was approved, and the ILO was asked to prepare and negotiate an international action plan for youth employment. This international action plan for youth employment was finalised and approved by all of the member states of the ILO in November of 2020, here in Geneva. What is the future of work? We know that the labour market has already been impacted by major transformations, and these are linked to climate change, demographical changes, technological changes, and so on and so forth. We know that we have new economies that are being developed. The green economy, linked to environmental issues, the digital economy, which has been in existence for the longest time, but does not cease to increase. We've also got a blue economy, and this is linked to emerging professions, to the seas and to the oceans. And then we have the economy for people services, and this is linked to the aging population, especially in rich countries. These are only 4 examples of major transformations that we've seen in the labour market, and as we know, we are seeing even bigger changes with professions that are being created, professions that are being transformed, and professions that are being gotten rid of. What are the economic reasons now? Economic reasons are often very important. We know that it is very costly for a country to invest in career guidance tools that are high performing, that are very comprehensive. We know that you also need to invest in IT systems in order to have a hand on the labour market, and invest or propose a professional training program that is rich, adapted, and accessible to the greater public. All of this is extremely costly. That said, it is an investment that is a win-win situation for the economy of the country, so that you're able to fight against a mismatch between the needs of businesses and also the skills of young people and job seekers, and even employees, those who are in work. We've heard about this mismatch before, and about how difficult it is for businesses to find candidates for vacancies. Therefore, it's a win-win solution, in my opinion, not only for the economy, but also for professional insertion. When we look at the different tools that are out there, they are indispensable in order to help deal with the needs of the economic market. We've also had an intensification of needs due to COVID-19.
COVID has worsened the situation. The balance has been changed. There are new ways of working, in particular with remote work, which you might have found out will stay with us for some time. Some economic sectors have been completely deserted. They find it hard to recruit after the crisis, and the most fragile were also the most affected. There's a real need to reconstruct for recovery, and that this is based on the human. It is now also a question of restoring hope. Orientation and career guidance gives hope, and I remind you that only 35% of young people say they are optimistic about their future. So there's a real need to help them rebound. Rebound by identifying which job and training is most suitable for them. It is also necessary to offer psychological and social support, as well as personalized solutions to all these young people, but also to everybody and anybody all along their professional path, from youth up to the last years of professional activity. The role of PES is absolutely essential, and we all agree, I think, when we highlight this. The Convention of 1948, number 88 of the ILO, already described the key role of PES very precisely, and also their role as central actors in the follow-up of professional transitions. They offer information on the labor market, and that's also an important aspect, an important role of PES. To develop career development advice is a more and more important task for PES today. And then we also see that PES take a more and more important position around professional training. PES have a role in identifying with companies, with professional sectors, those sectors where skills are expected and necessary. Pairs more and more have a role to play to organize, to describe and map out the map of professional skills that are necessary, and their role is more and more a role of purchasing training to implement these professional trainings straight away and guide job seekers towards the sectors needing their skills. Pairs also have a role for equity, for equality. As a public service, the pairs has the possibility to act for those that are left behind and to act for those that need it most across all the tools that pairs have available, in particular digital tools. Here also we see that those who have the more difficulty need access to digital tools. Therefore, here are the 6 main reasons that I believe we all share on the need of the professional career guidance and their position, which becomes more and more important in the policies of all countries. To finish, I would like to present you the service proposition by the ILO. We have 2 levels of services to develop career guidance in countries. First of all, we make available tools on a global level. We currently create a collection of practical guides aimed at job seekers, but also to advisors. I later will send you the link to these tools. We also provide training for employment advisors and for their managers, and we also prepare and offer digital tools. We also have a second level, a follow-up, which is tailor-made for the countries that request it. We have a diagnosis of national guidance services. We have support for outlining a guidance strategy and support for creating tailor-made specific measures. I thank you for your attention, and I will be there to answer your questions if there are any later. Thank you very much.
Mr. DUMORA, amazing presentation. Thank you very much. Very detailed questioning, and I mean, while listening to you, I even made many notes about what we can do in Azerbaijan, and like, amazing. Thank you very much. Particularly the part about giving the hope. Yesterday I was reading a book about career counseling, and in the first chapter where they mentioned about the helping skills, they mentioned that one of the main roles of the career counselor is giving the hope. So that's why I really think that I support this idea, and I think that career guidance and the whole public employment service, one of the roles of public employment service is to give the hope to the person who needs this support. So, dear friends, now I will be your presenter. So, as I mentioned, my name is Toghrul ALAKBAROV, and I am the head of the Career Guidance Division at State Employment Agency of Azerbaijan. So for the next 15-20 minutes, I will share about my thoughts and our vision about career guidance evolution and action in Azerbaijan. So let's start. Okay. One second. So what happened? The question which comes to our mind, what happened for the last year and a half? So as our previous honored speakers mentioned, the studies made by the ILO showed that after the Great Depression of the 1930s, COVID-19 is the most destructive process in the labor market. Millions of people, they lost their job. Millions of people became job seekers or unemployed. What we know that in 2020, when the pandemic was accompanied by mass closures, there was a 8.8 decrease on in the working hours compared to the last quarter 2019, as our speaker Mr. DUMORA mentioned. So, as we see, as a result of decline of global workers lost 3.7 trillion or 4.4% of world GDP. It's a huge number. And but we have hope. We still have hope, and we believe that after the vaccination, the news and what we believe it's expectation that the labor market will recover by early 2021, and progress has shown that the labor market has not yet recovered from the shock, and countries are expecting third and fourth pandemic waves. Yeah, I mean, as we see from the news, the massive vaccination is going on in maybe all parts of the world, in many countries, but still the vaccination doesn't solve the whole problem. And besides having the hope, we're also expecting to have the other waves of the pandemic. And forecasts suggest that the recovery process in the post-pandemic period will uneven and the level of countries and individuals. So what about Azerbaijan? So if we speak about the career guidance in Azerbaijan, prior to the pandemic, we were organizing vocational counseling for students in schools and held vocational seminars. According to our legislation, career guidance done by the State Employment Agency is primarily targeted to the students of schools, to the students of the higher education institutions, job seekers, unemployed, and the parents of the students. So generally, we were working with if we speak about the students, we were working face-to-face, and we were preparing and we were organizing vocational counseling at the schools. So the pandemic's closure has led to the closure of the schools and postponement of public seminars and forums. So as in many countries, the shock effect that we cannot help people face-to-face because it's dangerous. And that's why these activities help us to go online, and our visual career activities have been suspended. So prior to this period, fortunately or unfortunately, we never experienced online career guidance service in Azerbaijan. So as many people, general entrepreneurs says, pandemic was also a choice, and gave us opportunity to look at the situation from different perspectives. So what we understood that we need to prepare new career consultants who are ready to work online. And what we did, from the January of 2020, we started training consultants who will provide online services. So it was a test period, and we trained 25 consultants, and we worked with them for the period of 3 months. And in the end, we chose the 8 of them as the first digital online consultants. As a result, we established Allo Career digital career consulting service, Allo Career. So the name is like when somebody's calling you and saying like, oh, I need some help with career. So we established a service which will design for meetings that require an individual approach and self-awareness in market research, career choice, goal setting, preparation of CVs, resumes, personal branding, education abroad, or simply as job interviews. So as we see, there were many topics which were covered by our consultants, and we also it was done by our individual meetings. I will share the results of our 4 or 5 months work. It was individual meetings, the one that we started first. Then we had the group meetings. It's like the workshops, and with 5-10 people, where we were speaking and sharing experience about the preparation of resume, cover letter, preparation of the job interview. And we had career webinars. It was online using general Zoom or StreamYard. And our first topics were major selection, because in Azerbaijan major selection is happening in the summer, as in many countries. And we had a couple of webinars on major selection and how the students, the high school students, should make their choice. So what are the results? So we have interesting numbers. For the last 4 months, we had more than 800 of people, individuals, as we say in the IT world, unique users, who use our services. And the total number of meetings is more than 1,000. It means that one person was able to use approach to our career consultant several times. And what makes us proud and happy is after each meeting, we are sending the evaluation form, and we ask our clients, our citizens, to evaluate our services. So among the people who filled these services, filled this form, because not all of them were filling it, 98% out of 100, they were happy with our services. So for us, we were really happy that we can provide provide the service which people are really happy with. So what else? We understood that this establishment of just a career center, the establishment of a career is not enough. So we agreed on establishing a vocational and career center for State Employment Agency, which will help us to reach several goals. First of all, as I mentioned here, is about the flexible solution and adaptability. What we see from the ILO research, what we see from the other research centers, works that the future of the work will shift very quickly. That's why we need to establish an institution which will be able to answer to the change very quickly and be adaptable and find a flexible solution. That's why the role of this career center is to finding the flexible solution in the unseen future. I mean, and it will help us to set up the primary goals and set up our vision, and also to find the sustainable further plans. What are our future plans? So what we are doing now is inside this career center, we are establishing the brain hub, the think tank, let's say, which will help us to reach the goals that I mentioned beforehand. First of all is study of international experience. Of course, we don't have to invent the wheel, and we double or tripled our efforts on learning the best practices. And if you listen to me now, as State Employment Agency, as a representative of State Employment Service Azerbaijan, we are ready to share our experience, and we will be happy to listen to your experience. So if you have any questions, we can talk after this meeting. I can share my contacts, and really we have already established cooperation with several state employment services in the world, and we are ready to increase this number. Second is analysis, the preparation of career handbooks, because we see that you are strong. You are strong as strong your team. So that's why we are planning to develop digital and paper-based handbooks, which will help our career counselors with diagnostics, and also with which will provide the tools in order to make their work more effectively. Again, of course, we don't forget about quality control, and we think that we will pay special attention to the services provided. So this career center brain hub will help us to test, evaluate, assess our services and develop them. And of course, conducting the market research. I mean, we all know the important essence of the market research, because we know that job market is, as I mentioned, like shifting rapidly. So we would like to learn particularly the skills which are demanded by the job market. I mean, during the presentation, one of the speakers mentioned about the mismatch between the skills that the job market is requiring and the skills that unemployed people have. So that's why we would like to learn about the skills and tell these unemployed and train them to have the skills. Okay, one of our initiatives is the Coordination Council of the career career centers in Azerbaijan higher educational institutions. What does it mean? In Azerbaijan, we have more than 40 higher education institutions, and majority of them, they have the career centers. But there is no link. There is almost no link between them each other. That's why we initiated the establishment of Coordination Council, where we already have the board, the high board, which are representative of different institutions and universities. And the aim of this board is to exchange the experiences with other universities, help the universities to establish their career services, or to help them to develop and support their career services, as well as it's very important, I need to underline this and highlight this, the establishment to be able to establish the unified standards for career services, because now we all do it as we know. Some use the practice, for example, from Turkey, the other use from practice from Europe or Russia, but we would like to have the unified career standards, at least the entry level. And so far, for the last 3 months, 4 months, we have done a big improvement in this area. Mobile profession, this is one of my favorite initiatives. So the name of this initiative maybe looks a little bit formal, or but in fact it's very useful initiative. What does it mean? So we are planning to use, like, the sign of this project is the bus. Yes, you heard right, bus. So what we plan to do, we are planning to use the bus and to gather together representative of several professions, for example 10-15 professions, and with these experts we are going to the all regions of Azerbaijan, to the villages, to mountainous villages, to hilly villages, to the villages where people and students and high school students or just school children, they don't have access to the internet, or they are not too much familiar with the job market. So the specialists who are coming with us, they will have their tents, and in which tent, in which village that we are going, we will have several tents for our specialists. And in this tent, in these tents, the specialists, they will share their experience, but not just giving the information, but giving these students the chance to taste the profession. For example, the digital marketer, he will show how to make the Google Ads promotions, or the designer will help with using the PowerPoint or using the Photoshop or Adobe Illustrator. So this tasting opportunity will help the students to have the accessible feeling and experience, and maybe help the students to make the major choice. And also during this event, we are planning to make several seminars to the inhabitants of this city or village, to the, for example, unemployed people, for job seekers, for parents, and to inform them and raise awareness about the changing job market and opportunities which the government and the local community can provide these people with. And certification center. So one of the roles of our career center that we are planning to establish soon is the certification center. So what is the problem? You can ask me. So the thing is, the notion of the profession of career consultants and counselors is very new to Azerbaijan, and as in maybe in several countries. So there is and we don't have any so far any higher education institution which provide the education which meets the demands of the job market. But we have a big demand. So there are several governmental and business bodies who are looking for career counselors, and generally they develop these counselors by themselves. So what we are planning to do, we are planning to establish the course for career counselors, and people who would like to be a career counselor, he or she will come to us, and they will pass through the course, and they will have the certification. So far we don't have any national certification in career counseling. We have several companies who are providing the certification, but it's not legitimate. So first our step is to provide this course, to establish this course, and to help other governmental institutions to meet the demands of the job market and to find the career counselors. And here the advantage of this, that we will have the same system, and these people will have the skills which this profession requires. The second, we plan to work with the universities and to maybe work on the program for a degree program and establish the career counselor degree, probably master degree, in one of the universities. And of course, we are planning in the end also to work with the international institutions and to learning their best practices in developing these certification programs, as well as to put our hands on the pulse and to understand what is the job market is looking for, and to put this new things in our program in order to make our program and certification program up to date. Thank you very much for your attention. That was what I was planning to share with you, and this is our context. Please feel free to message us, and if you have any questions, I would love to answer in the end of the presentations. So now we will have our third presenter is Mr. Ramazan Beygboğa. He is an employment expert at Turkish Employment Agency İŞKUR, and he will speak to us about the career guidance evolution and action in our brother Turkey. Mr. Beygboğa, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Ramazan Beygboğa. I am working as an employment expert for the Turkish Employment Agency. As İŞKUR, the public employment institution of Turkey, we are delivering services for job seekers, employers, and students. İŞKUR is a public employment agency, and our agency was established in 1946. Since then, we are providing services to the target groups, and İŞKUR has three main service areas. I can say that first one is job placement services, the second one is job and vocational counseling services, and the last one is active and passive labor market programs. We, as I can say, İŞKUR is a bridge between the job seekers and employers. Especially, we get working job demands from the employers, and on the other hand, job seekers come to our professional directorates and service centers, meet their job and vocational counselors. After that, the counselors are trying to match the job seekers with working jobs according to their skills, demands, etc. The counselors offer the services through the portfolio management system, and thus every job seeker, employer, and school has a counselor. And today I will give some basic information about job and vocational counseling services. We are providing in the employment sector, and on the other hand, the Ministry of National Education is responsible for offering career guidance services in the education centers. As you can see the presentation plan, I will give some details information about these services. As I said, job and vocational counseling services is a main services of İŞKUR. There are three main target groups of the counseling services: job seekers, employers, and students. The counselors systematically help job seekers, especially to find a job, solve their occupational adjustment problems, improve these professional skills, change their profession or job. On the other hand, counselors also meet the demands of the employers by being informed within the framework of legislation, and help the students choose their profession. And the counseling services are carried out the basis of individual interviews, group interviews, workplace visits, and educational institutions visits. We are now offering in all over the country, and 81 provincial directorates and other plus service centers. We are trying to establish a new model, named the profile-based counseling system. This system is started at the end of the 2017, and now we are offering in 69 units of the country. In this system, we divided job and vocational counselors into the 5 branch. As one of them is job seeker counselor, another is employer counselor, vocational counselor, and job coach for the disabled person. And the last one is a job club leader. And if I give some information, some figures about statistic for the counseling services, as you can see, the numbers are increasing in every year, especially before the pandemic in 2019. As you can see, more than 4 million people are benefited from the counseling services. We conducted more than 7 million individual interviews with the job seekers. Also another service type is a group interview. As you can see, nearly 1 million or more people are benefited in every year, but because of the pandemic, the numbers are decreasing, especially last year, also this year, same. The counselors are visiting the workplaces, especially before the pandemic. We are reached the nearly 700,000, more than 700,000 workplace visits. In these visits, we are collecting demands of the employers and then trying to match the job seekers with this employer demands. Also, we are visiting the educational institutions. As you can see, the numbers in every year, especially in 2018, nearly 30,000 school educational institution have been visited by the Japan vocational counselors. If I give the information about the 2021, as you can see, the numbers, these numbers are for the January-July term. Nearly 1 million people are benefited from this Japan vocational counseling services, and more than 1.2 million interviews had been done by the counselors, especially in this term. 300,000 workplaces are visited. Also, nearly 2,000 educational institutions are visited by the Japan vocational counselors. If I give some information about the detailed information about the job seeker counseling, in İŞKUR, there are nearly 5,000 counselors are employed, and in every part of the country there are service centers of İŞKUR. We are providing job seekers to do services of İŞKUR to the job seekers, and especially counselors meet the job seekers and getting to people to know themselves and gain information about professions and vocational training places, and also evaluate the knowledge of the job seekers they have gained. Also try to help them turn to jobs, profession, courses and programs that are suitable for them, especially vocational training courses or on-the-job training programs. Also, the process of developing job search skills and finance skills trainings are provided to job seekers, and also employer expectations, CV preparation methods, and interview techniques are also provided to the job seekers, and they give group interviews and job search skills seminars all over the country. On the other hand, employer counseling, we are visiting the companies in every time of the year, and by visiting employers, Japan vocational getting from them their working job demands, and also introduced İŞKUR services, receiving labor market demands, as I mentioned, assist in realizing their work related to İŞKUR. Also, this is a bridge connecting the supply and demand aspect of the labor market by meeting and demands of the employers who need personnel. On the other hand, counselors also meet the job seekers, and then in the background they try to match the job seekers with this working jobs employer demands. Counselors also not only meet the current needs of the employers, but also try to determine the professions they will need in the future and draw a roadmap for them. This will guide us, especially for planning and also guiding the job seekers to the employers. Employers also in this visits, employers are informed about incentives and supports and İŞKUR services. Another branch of the counseling services is vocational counseling. In this counseling type, we are providing the students our İŞKUR services, and for students who will choose a field branch in high schools, and for university students who are in the career planning phase, vocational counseling services is provided to especially get to know themselves, choose their professions, and also educational opportunities, and to have more detailed information about the professional orientation. Especially this is a huge concentrated employment, vocational career guidance employment services. In this educational institutions visits carried out. The importance of choosing a profession at the points to be considered in choosing a professional, especially explain it to the students. Information is given about professions, what can they do, what can they choose in the future, which occupations or professions suitable for them. Vocational training opportunities, also higher education opportunities are mentioned in this visits, and these visits are done by group work method in the educational institutions. Another branch and another service of the İŞKUR is job clubs. We started this initiative in 2017. Job clubs is an intensified job and career counseling program. The main aims of the job clubs to provide method and motivation support for groups that require special policies, such as women, youth, the disabled people, the long-term unemployed and ex-convict, etc. The main idea of this job clubs is that we can say that there is a job for everyone. The main idea is in these clubs are imposing the job seekers. In the job clubs, which last in 2 to 5 days with groups of up to 6 to 15 people, especially theoretical and practical information is given to participants to get to know their own skills, to gain information about the labor market, and also to be aware of job search channels, how to prepare an effective CV, and also to learn what to do in a job interview with the employer. In this context, now we are established 80 job clubs in 72 provinces. Until the end of this year, we are planning to open in all provinces of Turkey, and then also we will try to disseminate in other provinces also. Since the establishment of the job clubs. More than 100,000 people have benefited from the job club services. In this job clubs, if I give some detailed information, club visits by employers, another is one of the most important aspect of the clubs. In the job club, successful actors of business life, registered employers are invited to the job clubs and then interviewed by job seekers face to face, and also employers or human resources experts of companies provide information to the participants on matters that are important for their participation in business life. How do they behave, how do they prepare themselves and express themselves, etc. Hearing the theoretical training and they received from the employer has a great impact for the participants. Another aspect is active participation in the process. We are using the peer learning counseling methods in these job clubs. This method is especially beneficially for the participants. Thus, we ensure that members actively participate in the process, while this aspect increases self-confidence, especially of individuals. Also strengthens the friendship between the members and enables them to inform each other and express themselves clearly about business opportunities. We are using simulations in this clubs. Special theoretical trainings are reinforced with the practice in the job clubs. Roles are defined for the participants in methods such as interviews and telephone conversation with the employer. They roll that simulations, and then the mistakes and the truths made in the interview are evaluated by all the participants. In what point you did wrong or you did good, for example. Also, success stories, we are using this methods. Former job club beneficiaries who benefited from the past job clubs and then employed in a company. We are trying to invite them to the job clubs and to share their experiences who they face. In this success stories have been employed are invited to club, as I mentioned, to share their experiences for the new participants. In the observation that we made, it was seen that the practice had a very motivational effect on the members. They using this methods very useful and friendly. Another services or branch of the counseling services, this is a disabled job coaching. This is another initiative of the İŞKUR. We started in 2018 regarding the supported employment model. That's implementation of the supported employment model, which is implemented in many developed countries in the world. And in order to increase the capacity of İŞKUR services, we provide for the disabled and standardize them. Also, this studies for structure of the model which were initiated in 8 pilot provinces in 2018. Then we are trying to make dissemination activities are currently being implemented in 73 units in 51 provinces. Within the scope of education method and application process, we are trying to disseminate these studies, and these studies will be carried out in 81 provinces, all provinces of Turkey. And another important of the output of this initiative is try to train the job and vocational counselors as a job coach. Another main important output of this initiative. With this job coaching model, we are trying to ensure that the employment of persons with disabilities is sustainable. Also, we are trying to convince employers to employ people with disabilities, to direct people with disabilities to jobs, professions appropriate to their skills, demands, expectations. Also to create a follow-up mechanism for individuals with disabilities, especially with creating an individual action plan for them. And the last one is to make the institutional services offered to disabled more qualified services and try to make them employment is sustainable. Another main initiative of İŞKUR is Human Resources Platform. This initiative is an customized employer counseling services that identify the workplaces with a human resources department within the workplace, and preferably at least 10 employees as a target audience. Human resource platforms have been established in order to inform employers about all activities of our institution, İŞKUR, and to improve services and awareness for employers. This structure, we established these studies in 2018. Also, this structure allows us the contact information of the managers, human resource officials, member of companies, provinces listed up to date. In this way, employers are promptly informed about the agency services. There are now 106 human resource platforms in 81 provinces. Main targets are the establishing local networks on behalf of the labor markets by exchanging the information with the help of the face-to-face communication with employers, different and communication tools such as email groups, messaging applications to transfer information quickly and effectively to employers about our institutional services, and the stringent private sector İŞKUR cooperation by organizing regular meetings, seminars, training, organization, and other events. Human resource platform activities will increase the rate of influence of our agency in the private sector, especially trying to establish private sector İŞKUR cooperation, the promotion of our agency services, employment, human resource services are the main outputs. Japan Vocational Counseling during the pandemic as the main topics of today. As you know, the COVID-19 pandemic continues to affect the flow of normal life in many areas, as well as in the field of mobility and lifelong guidance. In this time when face-to-face meetings and mobility are limited, people's access to information, making the right decisions and directing their lives have become important issues. Currently, almost no countries have a clear idea about the course of the pandemic and what effects it will have on our lives. In these difficult times, each country carries out studies in line with its own internal dynamics in terms of informing people, their access to counseling and career services, and the effective use of human resources. Every country is trying to develop its own implementation and on delivering services to develop new tools and to use information and communication technologies, especially under these pandemic conditions. We are trying to move our services, some of services, into the online platforms I will give some information, some examples of these initiatives. We are using our main website, İŞKUR main website, to provide online services. Anyone, job seeker or employer, can use this main website and can apply for a job or courses, or also publish and working job in the online. We are trying to use mostly, and if I give some examples, especially online job clubs, I can give my most important example for career guidance services. As I mentioned, job club activities, which were only face-to-face in the mid of the 2020. We tried to move the job clubs activities online since June 2020. In addition to health-related measures, online services provision, increasing accessibility of services, and there are also benefiting, such as providing counseling services in places where there is no provincial directorate or service center. Until the end of July, in a 1 year period, a total of nearly 26,000 people benefited from the job club training. These are an important example for the online services for the pandemic solutions. Another example is online human resource events. On May 27, 2021, both a workshop and human resource summit and health tech communication legal training were held online with the participation of all provincial directorates. In 2021, due to pandemic conditions, online meetings platform, Zoom platform membership for human resource platforms was provided to each of our provinces to meet the employers easily. Within the scope of the human resource platform studies, more than 200 online interviews were conducted with employers. Another example is the Digital Career Day. We held online on January 15, 2021, in order to safely bring together employers and students and young people who want to steer their careers within the scope of Japan Vocational Counseling services offered to students during the pandemic period. We are trying to move, as I mentioned, we are trying to move our most of services to the online platform. Our main website, also e-state application, people can access in everywhere of the country by using the website, mobile application, and any other platform, online platform, to benefit the İŞKUR services. And my presentation is that, and I would like to thank you to give me this opportunity to express myself, and thank you.
For your presentation. I will give the floor back to Mr. ALAKBAROV for the Q&A part of your meeting. Unfortunately, I can actually see he is offline at the moment, so I don't know if he's had any issues. Mr. Uhor or Florence, if you would like to either request the floor and you can let me know how to continue the meeting whilst he's offline, or you can write to me. Okay, Monsieur Uhor, the floor is yours.
Bonjour.
We'll take the floor just while we're waiting for our moderator because he's been disconnected. I would like to thank you. We had a couple of questions in the chat that I will look at. There was a first one that was more for Mr. DUMORA from the ILO. It was about the quick changes. We saw that when it came to professional services, there was lots of work that needed to be done in order to educate the different stakeholders so that they are giving autonomy and also giving or posing a deeper eye on this. But the question was linked to data. And I think that it's important to have his idea. How can we evolve? How can we build a watch on the evolution of employments and skills? How can we have a system that is in place that allows us to anticipate the evolutions of the market? How can we have a collective surveillance on what's going on in the market so that we're able to read the future and also share this reading with the different stakeholders? And I will give the floor to Mr. DUMORA so that he's able to answer that question. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Thierry. Thank you for this question. I am going to try and answer as best as I can, and then everyone else can obviously jump in and complete if they wish to. As I mentioned earlier, there is a very important role played by public employment services, and this is to inform candidates on what's going on. Because when we look at career guidance, the guidance or the advice given is based on information coming from the market, be we talking about profession, market progression, different modalities linked to recruitment into the professional sector. Therefore, there's a very important role that is played by each public employment service to accompany and to support the delivery of this type of information. So where can we find this information? I would give 3 pieces of advice. Obviously, there are lots more, but 3 I will share. The first one is that public employment services exploit to the best that they can data that they already have. And public employment service, the PES, has when people sign up for job seekers, they are saved in the database, and this information is extremely important. And it's also extremely important to have the capacity to exploit data, to manage data, to cut up data into manageable chunks, and then also to produce some sort of support, some sort of tools that are accessible and understandable, not only for job seekers, but business, for decision makers, and also for students. Therefore, it's about exploiting the data that you already have as a public employment service. What is the second stage? We can create partnerships with other services, other state services, which also work with data linked to the labour market. We could be talking about the tax services. We could be talking about the Chamber of Commerce. And we can look at different tax returns that are filed. If we use this information, then we should be able to produce tools that are well adapted and appropriate for the types of needs. And the third element, and this could be linked to the first one because it's indispensable, is to work hand in hand, real closeness with the business world. And when I say this, to start off with, we're talking about working hand in hand on a daily basis. When the different advisors visit businesses, they need to be all the different data needs to be exploited so that you're able to determine what the trends are with regards to the needs for each sector. And then as an institution, because we know that there are public employment services that act as institutions, and you need to be able to organize on a national level or on a territorial level a trusting relationship with the different professional branches, with the different departments, so that there is an eye over the needs, the evolutions, and market progression. And it's by combining these three aspects that we're going to be able to have information in real time and up-to-date information about the labour market, which is of huge importance, and we need to be able to juxtapose them and translate them into tools that will be accessible to all. Thank you very much, Thierry.
Back to you for the next questions. If that's not the case, please let me know. Thierry.
Thank you very much, but I have maybe the same question. How can we anticipate what's happening? And I would like to give the floor to Mr. ALAKBAROV. Maybe he can answer this question on his front if he's back with us.
Dear Thierry, thank you very much for the question. Yeah, I apologize for misconnection, as I mean it happens to the internet everywhere probably. I'm not sure whether I was able to listen to hear the question. So could you please remind the question? Because it happened at the time I was connecting. That's why I was not able to hear properly. Could you please repeat the question so I can share my approach about this question and answer?
And ask a question in the chat, but if I'm scrolling down, and you can translate the questions, there's a little icon on the side, but for now I will pass the floor back to Thierry.
Question again. The question that was asked was for Mr. DUMORA, but I think it's a question that everyone could answer. It's about how can PESs intervene? How can we use data? How can, and it was what Mr. DUMORA said as well, we have data that can be exploited that is already in our possession, but for career guidance and career management, we need to be able to anticipate market data, anticipate what will be happening. So the question that I'm asking you now is that with public employment services in Azerbaijan, how do you capitalize on this? How do you capitalize on this data that you have looking at the evolution of the labor market? And how do you integrate them? How do you communicate with different job seekers or different institutions so that you can support them in their professional training? Thank you very much. I'll give you back the floor now. I hope that you've understood the question. Thank you.
Very much for your detailed explanation. So how we use the data to help the people, right? And how we use the data in anticipation and anticipating what will happen. So in State Employment Agency of Azerbaijan, we have the department which is related particularly to the job market, and they are working probably the employees and members of this department are listening to me. They are doing a really great job, and they are making the research regarding the job market, particularly the skills, the tendencies, and how the job market is changing. For example, if we speak about the career guidance, if we speak about the data, and if we speak about the State Employment Agency, I can give you the one example, particularly about the major selection. So what we are planning to do now and what we are currently doing, we did research on the job market and defined the top vacancies and hot vacancies, and the spheres and the major are the top demanded, and we also try to define which vacancies and which spheres will be demanded in 5-10 years. Using this information, we can also inform the parents and the students what we can expect from the job market. I think that the data raw data, I mean, it's not useful. So what we are doing, we are trying to analyze the data, and so far we have defined, as I mentioned, we have defined the spheres which are demanded. What else? We can also, what we are doing also is defining the top skills, the top transferable or top employability skills, which the job market in Azerbaijan is required. And we have defined these skills, we have defined the list of these skills, and we are sharing this information using our social media. Particularly, I need to mention that during this, the pandemic, the usage of social media is increased highly. And we are using this information and this data as to inform the people that which skills you need to acquire. As you know, we are shifting towards the competence-based job market, or we are currently in competence-based job market. That's why it's not just important what you studied, and it's important what you can do. That's why, I mean, these two examples I hope that these two examples can show what we are doing currently. But data management is something new for us as well. I mean, I wouldn't invent a wheel saying that, it's something that we are also learning, but what I'm really proud of and happy that our management and our board of directors, they are paying great attention to data, and hopefully during our next presentation and next meeting, I will be able to share more news and applications that we have done so far in Azerbaijan. Hope I answered your question. Thierry or Astrid?
For Mr. Begboda from İŞKUR. Actually, I have two questions for you. You're very lucky. A first question, I think the answer will be quite brief. My question is that you've talked about employment, about the follow-up of people, living with disability, and a colleague, Michael, is asking if there is any support. So how can we encourage, is there particular encouragement given to people to bring them back onto the labor market? So that's the first question. First question to you, Mr. Begboda.
The question, yes, there is some incentives and supports for the employment of the disabled people. In Turkey, there is a quota system for the disabled persons. The quota is 3% for the private sector employers and 4% for the public employment sectors. This one, if a private sector employer has 50 or more employees, they have to employ 3% of the total employers in their workplace. For the public employment services, this one 4%. Also, there are initiatives, incentives for the employing disabled persons. İŞKUR is providing the employment premiums, all of the premiums for the disabled persons instead of the employer. These are the main measures for employment of disabled. Also, in fact, most of country has their own systems or methods, but we are using the quota system and incentives system, as I mentioned. Another questions, as far as I can see, there are two more questions for me. I will give the answers. One of them, the job clubs are established and run by İŞKUR. Yes, we established and run the job clubs in every part of the country. We finance the job clubs. Job clubs has a separate budget and financially supported by the government. These are main initiatives in the last years. We are also cooperate with the public institutions, non-governmental organizations, etc. But main coordination is on our İŞKUR. We establish and run the job clubs. Another question about anticipating needs of the companies. This is the large question. I will give some information. We are, İŞKUR is conducting a labor market research every year. This research carried out periodically by İŞKUR since 2007 in order to keep up with the labor market, to reveal the demand structure of the labor market, to monitor the progress and to reveal the expectations. It has been carried out once a year over Turkey. The labor market research has continued in cooperation with Turkstat. This is the Turkish statistical institution since the second half of 2011. Active employment policies and planning are guided with the research results. Also, the labor market research is conducted almost in all provinces by the complete enumeration of the employers in big cities, in big provinces, by the sampling method of the workplaces, which reflect the whole country. Expect from the provinces in which the sampling method is used, all the workplaces with 20 and more employees are visited in this labor market research. Also, on the other hand, also we could conduct a vacant job research 4 times in a year in the middle month of each quarter. The field study of the vacant job research framework of this research is consists of the enterprises with 10 or more employees within the sectoral scope. This research analysis refers to the labor market demands received from İŞKUR by employers. According to Eurostat, it expresses the unmet labor demand. The main variable that can be used to monitor and evaluate the demand side of the labor market is vacant job rates. This research outputs are used in every step of the planning. For example, vocational training courses are opened in the provincial directorates based on the research of the province. For example, Istanbul province research report, they try to open the vocational training courses according to this research report. Also, a main research report for the country is prepared for every year and published on the main website of İŞKUR. Anyone can access from our İŞKUR main website this information and this statistics. As far as I can see, I answered all questions, and thank you.
I was going to pass back to Thierry Huor, but I can see that he has gone offline, probably due to technical issues. So if I can come back to you, Mr. ALAKBAROV, to continue. Thank you.
So thanks for your questions, dear audience, dear friends. So now I would like to give the floor to Ms. Florence De Montiere. She is the WAPES Europe Vice Presidency, and she will share her closing remarks with us. Ms. De Montiere, the floor is yours.
And to Turkey for explaining to us their experience. It's a great wealth to be able to see what the neighboring countries carry out to work on these issues. And during the presentations, I was able to see that the initiative was really present. And this is always a great point. I'd also like to thank ILO and François DUMORA for giving us international contents on questions that, of course, come across all public services. ILO has given us a vision which allows us to say that career guidance is a priority, needs to be a priority at the same time in the management of careers, but also in order to be able to activate the labor markets. Career guidance and career management, because it's for all citizens across countries and across all regions. Also, I'm thinking about migration. It's the fact of being able to have professional guidance to be able to manage careers. And this has also been said, manage hope for citizens, manage the future, and also especially for those that need it most. We see that it's the role of a public service to be able to look after the question of career guidance. And a second point that's been developed by the speakers, and in particular by Azerbaijan and Turkey, is that without career guidance, a labor market can't stand up by itself. It can't develop because companies, whether they are public or private, need to recruit employees, future employees. They need to be trained, so they need orientation and guidance, and they need to be able to occupy this labor market. And maybe the third point to prioritize this career guidance, it's also the fast path of change on our labor market. This has been mentioned, but I'd like to highlight it once again. The fact that very early on, any young person will have to ask themselves what they want to do, what their career will be. We know it today. We know that digital developments, general developments, as they were mentioned by Monsieur DUMORA, whether they're technological, demographical, or natural and environmental, everybody asks themselves about their future career. And I think this question we will ask ourselves more than once in our life. And this is why pairs need to be present, implement quality tools, need to be able to be reactive, flexible, and this has been said. They need to be able to complete and put together data from the labor market, but also demographic data, educational data, to be able to guide our system and assist everybody along the way. So for pairs, it's a great honor to be able to work with these individuals, but also to answer to the needs of companies and to be at the heart of a social matter of the economy in itself. And also, I'd like to salute the interventions and also say how important the tools for guidance are important. Once we've said that it's a priority, we need to equip ourselves with data to construct a strategy. Of course, the tools available are extremely important. And this has been said, digitalization has been very useful. And I think even the only tool that we were able to use during the pandemic. But how important, where the council is also important, these men and women that are there to guide each and every one of us in their path along the way. Because we know that guidance, being guided, is not always easy, and you can't put it just back to the use of an algorithm or a tool on a smartphone. This really puts back into place, I believe, the responsibility and the task of our colleagues, our counselors, men and women that follow up, that work with job seekers. I've heard in Turkey there's about 4,000 of them, and I think it's the best resource, I believe, to implement guidance programs. And because I have the honor of concluding on this conference of very high level, I'd like to say that to look after career guidance of job seekers, of course, also forces the public services that we are to look after the guidance of our own people, of our own employees. So how can we ask our colleagues, our partners, to fulfill this mission for job seekers and also for companies without having for themselves real guidance programs, real career guidance to reach this task, this goal in the best way possible. So this is really an encouragement to meet again during the next World Congress of WAPES, and which carries in their blood this innovation and also human. We will meet in Estonia, and I think we have been able to measure how much humans and innovation is at the heart of training, development, and to end, I'd like to thank everybody, our speakers, our moderator, and I'd like to give the floor to our moderator to finish and conclude on this absolutely fascinating conference. Thank you very much.
To your main moderator, but I can sadly see that he is also offline. Monsieur Ur, if you would like to take the floor, please raise your hand. I can see that Mr. ALAKBAROV has got some technical issues. So, Monsieur, oh no, he still has. Monsieur Ur, back to you.
Take the floor. I would have liked my colleague to conclude because he's invested a great amount of time and effort into this event. So I'd like to thank all those who have contributed to the organization. You've not seen them all. You've seen the speakers, but there's a whole team behind it that helped us implement this event. So before ending, I'd like to thank them, and I'd like to thank you all for your participation. And I think we can now say that we will conclude with this event. Thank you so much. See you very soon. Goodbye.
So, Ms. De Montiere, during her speech, she mentioned about about real wealth. So I really think that it's real wealth to be able to hear and to be able to share the stories. I think the pandemic really showed us that because despite all boundaries and differences, we lived in the same planet and we have the same planet, and we need to work together in order to give our citizens of all our countries the hope. And I hope that you will be able to contribute and you will be effective and successful in this contribution. Wish you all a great day and take care, and hope to see you somewhere in the world, maybe during the conferences or at least online. Have a great day and week, and bye-bye.
That concludes your event. You can now log off when you are ready, and thank you to our interpreters as well. Everybody have a good evening and afternoon. Bye bye.